Welcome back. Let's talk about how do you approach complexity in business problems. Problems are complex when there's no clear cause and effect relationship. It's very hard to tell what's causing the effect. On the other hand, simple problems have a very clear cause and effect relationship. Now, when it becomes very difficult to find this cause and effect relationship, people tend to make a mistake of confusing correlation with causation. One has to always remember correlation does not imply causation. Basically, just because two things correlate, that is, has an observed association between them, it does not mean one causes the other. Correlation between two things might be caused by a third factor. Let me explain this with an example. If you observe that people who are skipping breakfast are obese, then it would be wrong to conclude that skipping breakfast causes obesity. It is just a correlation, but not a causation. If the effect is obesity, then skipping breakfast may not be the cause. There could be a third cause, like physical activity. It is possible that people who are physically active feel hungry in the morning and so eat breakfast. Also, people who are physically active are not obese. So, physical activity might be the cause of both eating breakfast and being not obese. Similarly, there could be other factors at play as to why some people are more physically active than others. This makes it a complex problem because it's very hard to determine the cause and effect relationship. But in life and business, there are many problems in which it is very easy to determine the cause and effect relationship. These are simple problems where correlation could be a good approximation of causation. An example of this could be baking a cake. But when you take the same approach that you use in solving a simple problem and apply it to the complex problem, then it doesn't work. So it's very important to be aware of your problem domain, whether you're in a simple domain or a complex domain, before you start solutioning. But in business, many are not aware of this. This is because managers spend a lot of time and career in one type of problem domain. So there's a tendency to apply the solutioning approach that has always worked for them, even when faced with a problem in another domain. If you spend a lot of years in the bureaucratic type of role, then you see all problems as failure of process. But if you have been a deep expert, any problem is a failure of a lack of time and resources to do the analysis. This is where the Cynefin framework thinking is very effective. This framework was developed by Dave Snowden from IBM. Cynefin is a Welsh word meaning habitat in English. The reference to habitat is to make you aware of the problem domain or context where you've spent the most time in your career. Being aware would make you choose the most appropriate solutioning style instead of favoring the one that you're most used to in your own habitat. The first one is simple, which is now known as obvious. This is where the cause and effect relationships are easy to determine. Here the solutioning approach involves sense, categorize, respond. Sense involves establishing the facts, then categorize, and finally respond by following the rule or applying best practice. The second one is complicated. In this domain, there is a cause and effect relationship, but it's not self-evident. The relationship between cause and effect requires some analysis or expertise. There are a range of right answers. So here, the solutioning approach involves sense, analyze, and respond. Assess the fact, analyze, and then apply the appropriate good operating practice. Instead of best practice, the idea of good practice is more applicable. This is the province of experts like surgeons, intelligence analysts, engineers, lawyers, etc. The third one is complex. In this domain, there is a cause and effect relationship, but it's almost impossible to determine. Cause and effect can only be determined in retrospect. There are no right answers. There are multiple agents causing the effect. So here, the solutioning approach involves probe, sense, and respond. If experiments succeed, we amplify it. If not, we dampen it. Instead of best practice or good practice, the idea of emergent practice is more applicable here. The fourth one is chaotic. In this domain, no cause and effect relationship can be determined. Here, the only thing you can do is act. Action, any action, is the first and only way to respond appropriately. So here, the solutioning approach involves act, sense, and respond. So in this context, managers act to establish order, sense where the stability lies, and then respond to turn the chaotic into complex. Instead of best practice, good practice, or emergent practice, here the idea of novel practice is more applicable. The fifth domain in the center is disorder domain. You are in this domain where it's not easy to match your problem to any of the other four domains. The way out of this is to break down the situation into constituent parts and then assign each of them to one of the four domains. Then assess and tweak accordingly. There's more to Cynefin, but this is the basic idea. Basically, you must be aware of the problem domain and then apply the corresponding solutioning approach for that domain instead of one size fits all approach. Most businesses make the mistake of applying the best practices approach of the simple or obvious domain to a problem in a complex domain. If you're dealing with a problem in a complex domain, which most businesses are these days, it's better to act or experiment first. Best practices really don't work in complex domains because best practices are really past practices. This is the reason why successful companies like Amazon is always experimenting. It amplifies the successful experiments while dampening the unsuccessful ones. Come learn more about it at UpTinker. We teach you the Cynefin framework to help you approach complexity in business problems while building your startup. Reach out to us using the link below. And thank you for watching.